Welcome to this brief recording of Binary Stream Software's Emailer Manager module for Microsoft Dynamics GP. Today we're going to be looking at the Mass Payables EFT transmission functionality. Just a couple basic assumptions with this demo. It is assumed for this demo that you know how to use Microsoft Dynamics GP to create a vendor invoice using the purchasing or the payables management module of Dynamics GP. And it's also assumed that you already have your company and your vendor's EFT setup completed. If neither of these assumptions is true, please check with your Microsoft Dynamics GP partner for some refresher training on how to manage these functionalities. So as a beginning, I want to start with the email manager setup. As you can see from the setup screen, you can choose between using Microsoft Outlook or Lotus for email, and you can enable either email or email through fax or internet fax or any of the combination of these. We can see here the different modules the emailer manager is equipped to work with, and we're going to pay particular attention today to the EFT setup. So let's click on that. At the very beginning, we have a couple options. We can choose whether or not to combine attachments for the same vendor into a single email. And we can also choose to enable a reminder on the Generate EFT File functionality of Dynamics GP. This is a very important feature. I strongly recommend that you check this box, and I'll explain that functionality as we go through the demonstration. Of course, we need to set up the paths that the application is going to use. Where are any attachments going to be stored that will be grabbed and attached to your email? Where are the PDF documents, these remittance forms that the application will create, where are they going to be stored on your server? And this is the default setup. When you actually create a transaction, you can delete or you can modify these paths or delete and change them. You can add new folders on the fly and so on. The next step, we need to create, again at the system-wide level, the email subject. So this is what will go in the subject line of your email. In this particular case, I have it reading notification of EFT transmission. And then in the body, I've just created a note that says, please be advised that we'll be processing an EFT transaction. And you notice as I go down, I have not had to put an entire signature on here, because when we create an email, it will pull the signature that you have set up in your Microsoft Outlook or in your Lotus email application. You can also choose which type of report to use. You can use a GP report writer report, which is the standard remittance form created by Dynamics GP, or you can use Crystal Reports or SSRS to create a report, in which case you would fill out the variables required for those applications. For the purposes of this demonstration, we're going to leave it set to GP report. So that's it for setup. We set it, we forget it, we move on. So now moving back into the purchasing module, I'm going to create very quickly a transaction or an invoice for a particular vendor. And when I create that invoice and post it, I now have created a payable for this particular vendor. So of course, when the time comes to pay this invoice, I'm going to choose to pay this invoice via EFT. So I'm going to go into Select Checks, and I'm going to create a brand new batch. And when I create the batch, I'm going to tell GP that it is an EFT batch, and then I have to choose the checkbook that I'm going to use to pay these invoices. So I will save this. I'm then going to build my batch, and you'll notice that it will go out and calculate any amounts that are outstanding. So there's my $1,500 invoice. I've built my batch. Now I'm going to edit it just to verify that everything is fine. So I can see that for Ace Travel, there's the invoice that I just created, that voucher, and it is for the amount of $1,500 which we just created. I am now going to process that and create my EFT payable, and I'm going to post that EFT batch. Now, when it comes time to generate the EFT file, this is where the functionality of the email manager application kicks in. So when I'm looking at this screen, I'm going to figure out which checkbook I want to use. So I will grab that, and it brings out that batch that I just created, the NRM test batch, and it shows my $1,500 in there. Now, if I click to generate the EFT file, we'll notice a message comes up. This is the checkbox that we looked at in the setup. It's reminding us to print the EFT remittance report before we generate the file. That printing of that report is what populates the tables that are needed for the emailer manager application to work. So here I'm simply going to click cancel, come back up to the printer icon in the corner, and tell it to print the EFT remittance report after I select my batch. It will now create the remittance report that is going out to that vendor, and as you can see, that is going to be just the standard Dynamics GP report writer report, which can be modified and customized with your logo and any other information, and you can rearrange the fields here. Again, see your Dynamics GP partner for information on that. Then it brings up our window. This is the emailer manager application itself. So again, we see the information in the header, so it's telling us the checkbook, it's telling us it's looking at any unsent remittances. We could sort these if we wanted to by vendor or by check number, batch, and so on, by simply selecting the criteria here and filling in the to and the from. Again, it brings forward the paths and all of that email information that we set up at the very beginning in the setup. We could overwrite this, we could modify it, we can change it, and it will only change for this one time. What's in the setup will not be modified by what we do here. So once we have decided that everything in the upper portion is okay, we'll notice a list of EFT remittances, and there could be one, there could be hundreds of these. It makes no difference to the application. In this particular case, obviously there's just the one, so I'm going to mark the one that is selected, and if I click the send button, it will generate the email. If I don't want to generate the email, but I want the system to think that I did, we have created the function move to sent, which will simply flip that flag and tell the emailer manager application that this email has already been sent. In this case, I'm going to click send, and it's going to ask me, are you sure you want to process? Yes. So I click OK, and it's working now, and it will be running down through the list of any EFT remittances that need to be sent. And once it's done, it asks me, do you want to redisplay the screen? Yes. And when it redisplays, I know that it's done them all because there's nothing left to display. Now, how do I know that my email has been sent? Well, I can very quickly go to my email application, and you notice that there are emails in my outbox waiting to go. So there is an email here, and it's got the email address. It says that it's notification of EFT transmission. It has my attachment, it has the text, and it's picked up the email signature from my Microsoft Dynamics GP. Now, if my application was attached to the network and Outlook was enabled, it would send this and away it would go, and I would be able to then go on. If I had the vendor's machine, I could log on to that and I could see that the email has indeed been received. In the event that we want to resend one of these remittances to a customer, for some reason they say they didn't get it, you want to resend it as a reminder, we also have the option here of going into anything that has already been sent. So you simply check off sent, redisplay, and it will give you a listing of any emails that have already gone out. You can then again select those, and you can select one or many of those. Again, you would simply mark them as selected, and then you can send, and it will send emails to those vendors yet again. And at this point, we now come back, we've finished our emails, come back to our Generate EFT File screen, click on Generate EFT File. It does ask us, well, we know we've already done this, So we can simply click continue and away we go. And it tells us that in the proper location it has created the EFT file, which we would then send off to our bank to have all of our invoices paid. So thank you for your time today, for checking in on Binary Stream's email manager application. If you need any more information on Binary Stream or any of our products, certainly feel free to go to our website, www.binarystream.com. If you want some information about our products directly, you can contact our office at the number shown on the screen or the email addresses as well. Again, thank you for your interest in Binary Stream software.